Your thumb is hovering over the confirm button. The number in the box is $100. You've been staring at the Robinhood app for 11 minutes, trying to decide if that's too much or not enough, which is in itself a stupid question, because the right answer in 40 years is going to be $637,000 either way. You don't know that yet. Right now, you're 24. You live in a one-bedroom that's pretending to be a two-bedroom, and you make $48,000 a year, which sounded like a lot in college and sounds like rent now. You drive a car older than your last relationship. You eat a lot of pasta. You just spent the last 2 hours watching 7 Graham Stephan videos in a row, all of which somehow ended with the same conclusion. Index funds beat single stocks for almost everyone, almost always. You're 80% convinced. The other 20% is why your thumb has been hovering for 11 minutes. You tap confirm. Nothing happens. The account shows $100. The market drops 0.3% before bed, and your $100 becomes $99.70. You check the app 3 times. You're going to feel stupid for that someday. Right now, it's the only thing you've got. Here's what you don't know. That tap, the one that just made your stomach drop slightly, is worth $637,000 in 40 years. The same tap, with 3 more zeros in the box, is worth $637 million. The difference between those 2 versions of you isn't 1,000 times more work or 1,000 times more luck. It's 3 zeros and a refusal to quit. Tonight, you're living 4 versions of this tap. $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. Same Tuesday, same 40 years. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which version you're building right now, whether you meant to or not. I'm Max, and on this channel, we run the math on the financial decisions everyone tells you not to think about too hard. Subscribe button's right there if that's your kind of thing. It costs you nothing, which, given the topic, feels appropriate. Let's stay with the version of you that just tapped. 6 months in, your account reads $578. You did the math before you started. You knew it would be around there. $578 is not a number that changes your life. It is not a number you tell people about. It's a number that exists quietly in an app you check less than you used to, because the checking stopped producing a feeling worth seeking. This is the part nobody talks about. The first 6 months of investing $100 a month is not a story, it's a habit. And habits, before they produce results, produce only themselves. There's a version of you that quits here, not dramatically, just a month where things were tight and the transfer didn't happen. Then another month, then a year passes, and the $578 is still sitting there earning almost nothing, because you never moved it into anything that grows. That version of you isn't lazy. That version of you is human. The gap between knowing what to do and continuing to do it when nothing visible is rewarding you for it, that's where most people quietly exit. You don't exit. You don't know yet what that decision is worth, but you will. Year 1 ends. You've contributed $1,200. The account reads $1,312. The market cooperated, and you gained $112 beyond what you put in. $112. You could have earned that in an afternoon of overtime. It's not impressive, and you're smart enough to know it. But here's what the balance doesn't show. You just spent 12 months proving to yourself that your life didn't fall apart without the $100. The month didn't collapse. The things you thought you needed it for mostly didn't materialize. The $100 was never actually load-bearing in your budget. It just felt like it was. And most people never test that feeling. You tested it 12 times. It was wrong 12 times. That's worth more than $112 in returns. Year 5. You've contributed $6,000. Account balance, $8,200. The market dropped 14% somewhere in there, and you watched $380 evaporate in 11 weeks. You didn't sell. You kept tapping confirm every month. The shares you bought during the drop are now worth more than what you paid. The discipline of the down months compounded quietly. It does this every time, and you'll forget every time. The forgetting is fine, as long as the behavior doesn't change. Year 10, contributed $12,000. Balance, $20,500. You have $8,500 more than you put in. The returns are now contributing meaningfully. Last year alone, your portfolio added roughly $1,700 without a single extra dollar from you. Not from a raise, not from a side side hustle, from shares you bought 10 years ago, compounding into each other. Year 20. Contributed $24,000. Balance $76,000. The compounding has stopped feeling like a bonus and started feeling like a second contributor, like someone else is putting money into your account every month alongside you. That someone is time. Time is the only investor who never misses a contribution, never panics, and never sells at the bottom.
Year 40. You're 64. You've contributed a total of $48,000 across 4 decades. Your account is worth roughly $637,000. The difference, $589,000, was not earned. It was built by time and by your refusal to stop, by the 480 small decisions you made every month when the $100 could have gone somewhere else and instead went here. $637,000 from $100 a month, from the version of you that almost quit in month 3. Now, let's run it back. Same Tuesday, same click, but this time you're 28, you have a degree, and you make somewhere around $85,000 a year. You're a marketing coordinator, a junior dev, a nurse picking up extra shifts, an accountant 2 years out of your CPA exam. You have a 1-bedroom you can almost afford. You have a partner, you have a 2017 Civic that runs fine, and a 2023 SUV in your friend's driveway that you keep almost talking yourself into. You're sending $1,000 a month. It's 10 times the previous version of you, but here's the thing. It doesn't feel 10 times harder. It feels like 1 trip a year instead of 3. It feels like keeping the Civic. It feels like saying no to the kitchen reno your partner keeps sending you Pinterest boards about. Year 1. You've contributed $12,000. Balance, $13,200. The numbers are bigger, but the psychology is identical to the $100 version. You still check the app too much. You still feel a little stupid. The market still moves, and you still don't really understand why. Here's where it gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. Most people in your bracket, the college-educated, $80,000 to $110,000, decent job with benefits crowd, could be doing this. They aren't. Not because they can't, but because every raise gets absorbed into the apartment, the car, the trips, the I deserve it after the year I had. Lifestyle inflation isn't a bug, it's the default setting. And the default setting is what builds the version of you that ends up at 64 with $40,000 in a 401k and a lot of receipts from restaurants you don't remember. You don't do that. You keep the $1,000 going. You take the trip, you buy the thing, but the $1,000 stays non-negotiable. Year 10. Contributed $120,000. Balance, $205,000. You've crossed a threshold most people never see. You have more in investments than the median American has in total net worth. You didn't get there by being smarter. You got there by treating $1,000 a month like rent, a number that doesn't negotiate. Year 20. Contributed $240,000. Balance, $760,000. You're 48. Your friends are starting to talk about retirement in a tone that sounds like fear. You don't share their tone. The market did 11% last year, and your account added $76,000, more than 6 times what you contributed. The machine is doing the heavy lifting now. You're mostly just not getting in its way. Year 40. You're 68. Total contributed $480,000. Balance, $6.37 million. $6.37 million from $1,000 a month. The same money that, if you'd put it into 1 extra trip a year and a slightly nicer car, would have evaporated by Tuesday. This is the tier where the math starts to get genuinely violent, because the version of you sending $100 is going to retire comfortably. The version sending $1,000 is going to retire wealthy. And the difference between the two, when you back it out, is one decision made in your late 20s to treat investing like a bill. Same Tuesday. But now you're 35, you live in a 4-bedroom in a zip code that costs what it costs, and your household income is somewhere between $350,000 and $500,000. You're a senior engineer at a tech company, or you're a doctor finally out of residency, or you and your partner both clear $200,000, and you've been telling yourselves for 3 years that you're going to start investing more seriously soon. You're sending $10,000 a month, which sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It's also, and this is the part that's going to sting, well below what you could be sending. Because here's what's happening at $400,000 of household income. You have a $4,500 mortgage. You have 2 car payments because the lease was such a good deal. You have $3,000 a month in childcare. You have a Tahoe you didn't really need, but the salesman was very convincing, and the third row seats were genuinely useful that one time. You have a kitchen you renovated last year that, between us, looked completely fine before. You have a club membership. You have a streaming services subscription stack that you've stopped trying to audit. You make $400,000 a year, and you save $120,000 of it, and you tell yourself that's responsible. And technically, you're right. It is responsible. It's also leaving roughly $80,000 a year on the table that's getting absorbed into a lifestyle you wouldn't notice if it disappeared tomorrow. This is the Henry tier, high earner, not rich yet. The dirty secret of personal finance is that this is the tier where most of the actual wealth building gets sabotaged. Not by people making $50,000 who can't save,
By people making $400,000 who could save half of it and instead bought the boat. But not you. You're sending the $10,000. You took the boat off the table. You kept the Tahoe but skipped the second one. You're playing the long game. Year 1 contributed $120,000. Balance $132,000. Year 10 contributed $1.2 million. Balance $2.05 million. You're 45 and you have $2 million in investments and you're still working. Most people don't believe this is possible because most people have never met someone who actually did it. They've met a lot of people who talked about it. Different category. Year 20 contributed $2.4 million. Balance $7.6 million. The annual returns on your portfolio now exceed your contributions. You're putting in $120,000 a year and the market is adding $700,000. The machine is now louder than you are. Year 40, you're 75. Total contributed $4.8 million. Balance $63.7 million. $63 million from a job, not a startup exit, not an inheritance, not a lottery ticket, from showing up to work and sending $10,000 a month into an index fund for 40 years. And here's what this tier is actually about and why I'm being a little hard on it. The $10,000 a month person ends up with enough money to fund a small foundation, to buy a house for their kids, to never work again at 50 if they want to. The person making the same income who skipped the discipline ends up with maybe $3 million and a really nice boat that's worth $40,000 now. Same income, same 40 years, $60 million gap. The only difference was whether they treated $10,000 a month like a non-negotiable or like something they'd get to once the bonus came in. Last one. You're 38. You sold a company. Or you're an NBA player 2 years into your second contract. Or you're in the top 0.1% of earners in some industry the rest of us don't fully understand. You're sending $100,000 a month into investments. You are not, statistically, watching this video. You have a person whose entire job is the thing this video is teaching. But the math is fun, so we're including you anyway. Year 1 contributed $1.2 million. Balance $1.32 million. Already, in a single year, you've out-contributed what the $100 a month version of you contributed in their entire 40 years. Let that sit for a second. The $100 person working their whole adult life will put in less than you put in by Christmas. Year 10 contributed $12 million. Balance $20.5 million. Year 20 contributed $24 million. Balance $76 million. Year 40 total contributed $48 million. Balance $637 million. $637 million. The annual return on that account in year 40 is roughly $63 million per year. Your money makes more in 12 months than 99% of Americans will earn in their lifetime. You cannot spend it down meaningfully. You cannot lose it without trying. The math has decoupled from anything resembling effort. But here's the thing about this tier that I want you to actually hear, because it's the philosophical pivot of the whole video. The person sending $100,000 a month at 38 was almost certainly the person sending $100 a month at 24, or $500, or whatever they could manage. Nobody starts at $100,000 a month. Nobody. The path to this tier goes directly through through every other tier we just talked about. The $100 person and the $100,000 person aren't four different lives. They're the same life at different chapters.
Let's zoom out. $100 a month for 40 years, $637,000. $1,000 a month, $6.37 million. $10,000 a month, $63.7 million. $100,000 a month, $637 million. Clean tens all the way up. You'd think the difference between these four lives is the amount they invested. It isn't. The amount is just the multiplier. The actual difference, the thing that built every one of these accounts, was the tap. The same tap, repeated for 40 years, no matter what the market did, no matter how dumb it felt in month 3, no matter how tight things got in year 7. Here's the part I want you to leave with. Of the 4 lives we just walked through, only one of them is available to you right now. The $1,000 tier requires a certain income. The $10,000 tier requires a career trajectory you might not be on. The $100,000 tier requires an exit or a contract most of us are never going to see. The $100 tier is available to anyone watching this with a bank account and a pulse. And it is the only tier that automatically becomes the other 3 over time, if you let it. The $10,000 a month person at 45 was the $100 a month person at 25 who got better at it. They didn't skip the line. There is no line to skip. The reason most people never end up at any of these tiers isn't math. It's that the first tier feels too small to matter, so they wait for a bigger amount that never quite arrives, while the years that would have done all the heavy lifting quietly walk past them. You're going to be 65 either way. The only question is whether the version of you sitting there has $637,000 or whatever you have right now plus interest on a savings account. Drop a comment and tell me which tier you're at right now and which tier you're trying to be at in 10 years. I read every one. It's how I figure out what to make next. If this hit, the like button helps the algorithm show it to someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to actually go deeper on how to get from the $100 tier to the $1,000 tier without lifestyle creep eating you alive, that's the next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'm Max. Same Tuesday, same tap. See you in the next one.